President Mangosuthu Buthelezi has passed away. Of course, that's the news that we've received from this morning. Different reactions that we're getting across the political board. But inside of studio, we have the Newzroom Afrika political editor, that's Lukhanyo. Thank you for joining us. I mean, it's been quite a heavy morning for the nation, of course, for the Zulu kingdom as well. A man who's been revered to have had many titles, perhaps a reflection of the leadership qualities that he had.
Audrey, yes, indeed. Sad morning, I think, particularly for the nation and the kingdom of AmaZulu, to have lost their traditional prime minister. To some extent, you know, he was 95 years old. He had spent several weeks in hospital. You know, last month, the month before that, we had reported on that. But you can never prepare for the death of anyone, even if that person was 95 years old, even if you know that they had been sick and they had been ailing. So, you know, our condolences to the AmaZulu nation, and I suppose the political landscape of South Africa, because Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was a giant in that landscape. But is also, Audrey, a person who's got a contested legacy. Yes, we will get into that, I think, maybe this afternoon and going forward in the next days and weeks to come. And we will discuss what legacy someone like Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi leaves behind. We know, of course, you know, that there were allegations that were made against him in the early 90s during the TRC process about him having led IMPI you know, in KZN, and was basically at the forefront of violence there that led to the deaths of many, many people in South Africa. But also, he died as one of the longest-serving members of a democratic parliament in South Africa. Yes. So how do you then put those two things together in one? And also, longest-serving traditional prime minister for the AmaZulu nation. So quite a legacy that he leaves behind that we will obviously get into over the next few hours, few days, few weeks, and probably the next months and years.
I suppose it comes with having lived such a long life such as he's had to, a very extraordinary life that he had, you know, inside of politics. Like you mentioned, one of the first cabinet ministers from then democratic South Africa. You know, as media, what responsibility do we have when we speak of trying to strike that balance between you know, having an honest review of his legacy, but also reflecting on that and being respectful of this giant that has passed away?
Oh, incredible responsibility that we have, because remember right now that there are, you know, hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of South Africans busy watching us right now. So the responsibility that we have as the media is to be able to properly reflect and portray the legacy of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, both the good and the bad. You know, there are some people, of course, who would like to focus only on the good, but I believe if we as in the media fraternity only look at the good, then we are going to be denying the next generation of South Africans the truth about his full legacy, and that would be us being unfair to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. So our responsibility in making sure that we reflect his legacy in all its forms is important. Remember, about a year ago, Queen Elizabeth II, she passed away. And how we as South Africans had reflected at that time was that we had to interrogate her legacy and what her role was in the oppression of South Africans, both, you know, pre-colonial, as well as, of course, during the apartheid years, and what her role was in that. And we had to do it because that was her legacy. And then similarly here now, with the passing of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, again, we have to reflect accurately on who and what he was, not just keep the shiny side on the top. We've got the responsibility to accurately, because, you know, in some instances, Audrey, there are families, there are communities who would have lost loved ones at his direction. So that is not something that we can today just not talk about because, you know, he is now late. But we just we have to reflect.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and speaking of reactions, we've also had some across the board, and these are some of the reactions that we've had throughout the day. Of course, once again, as we continue to reflect on the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi.
Umntwana was not well for the past month, and he was admitted in hospital, as you know from the statements. Was discharged last Sunday with an improvement. And from Sunday up until yesterday, there is nothing that one can say developed anew. So we were hoping that he will continue his recovery as per the statement that was released last week. And also noting that he had very good medical support at home, we really were hoping as family that he would continue his recovery and get better.
Now, the former minister, Lindiwe Sisulu, has hailed Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi as someone who led by example. She served as his deputy in the Home Affairs Department back in 1996. Tributes have been pouring in for the late IFP founder.